Well, we thought for about 48 hours that Kentucky was about to get a massive recruit in the 2026 cycle, but he might end up going to Missouri instead.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we're going to be talking about Jason Crowe and the latest developments surrounding his recruitment. It seemed like Kentucky was going to get one of the best players in next year's class, committed on July 18th. But now, according to Joe Tipton, things have shifted in a different direction. Going to discuss that today, as well as a four-star quarterback committing to Kentucky football. And after watching some of his tape, he might remind you of a recent Kentucky QB, and it was before the injury. So this kid might end up being very, very special. And then to wrap up the show, going to talk about Jasper Johnson and his overall performance with Team USA. Some positives, some negatives overall. Glad to have him back in Lexington soon. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. And if you've got any questions, by the way, for the show, just let me know, because this is about to get interesting here over the next week and a half or so, because Jason Crowe Jr., a five-star guard in the 2026 recruiting class, has been linked to Kentucky for months. He hasn't taken any official visits anywhere, but with his tie to Jason Hart on the staff, you have expected Jason Crowe Jr. to be heavily involved with the Wildcats, and he has been over the last several months. We actually talked recently about his one-on-one interview with Jasper Johnson, where they playfully ask each other about Kentucky, about what Jason likes and dislikes and what he wants to see out of his upcoming college, and he will announce his commitment in less than 2 weeks on July 18th. That was according to, I believe, On3 had it first. And I'll tell you what else On3 had first. The latest update and this kid's recruitment. He mentioned, according to Joe Tipton in a recent interview, several schools were recruiting him: Kentucky, USC, Washington, Texas, Baylor, UCLA, Arkansas, and others. Here's the direct quote here from Joe Tipton. Kentucky had been viewed as the frontrunner for the last few months. His father, Jason Crowe Sr., is a close friend of Kentucky assistant Jason Hart. The two were high school teammates at Inglewood and remained close over the years. Crowe Jr. even described Hart as, quote, like an uncle, end quote. However, according to multiple sources, one school has quietly started gaining serious momentum: Missouri. The Tigers have discreetly entered the mix and appear to be the team to beat as we enter the final stretch of his recruitment. With 12 days until the commitment date, a lot could change. I wouldn't rule out a late surge from schools like USC and Texas, whose sources mentioned as other contenders. Just a brief recap as to who Jason Crowe Jr. is. Five-star shooting guard, in the 2026 recruiting class, 6'3", 170 pounds, out of Inglewood High School, playing for the Nike EYBL earlier this year. He is the number 6 overall player, number 3 shooting guard, number 5 player in the state of California. On3 has him ranked as the 13th overall player, while 24/7 ESPN and Rivals have him ranked 5th, and 9th, respectively. All of them, except for On3, have him as a 5-star. On3, of course, having him as a high 4-star, ranked 13th overall. What do we know about Jason Crowe overall as a player? Well, he is a score-first guard. He is a ball-dominant guard, and he can get to the hoop. He can shoot it in the mid-range, and he can launch it from beyond the arc. He is a score-first shot chuck, and he's going to get you a bucket-type shooting guard, and he would be really, really fun to watch in blue and white. Unfortunately, according to Joe Tipton, it's looking like right now he's going to be playing in Como. Unless something changes here over the next 12 days, which, like Tipton said, a lot can. I don't necessarily know if it will. He is going to end up playing for Dennis Gates and company there out in Mizzou. This would be I wouldn't necessarily say a devastating loss for Kentucky, especially considering some of the other names that they are linked with in the 2026 recruiting class. Look at somebody like Tyron Stokes. You look at somebody like Tay Kinney, excuse me. You've got a lot of really solid score first type options that you could pull from the high school ranks. That could be that 15 plus point per game score for your squad 2 seasons from now, not this season, but next season. So it wouldn't be the biggest loss. However, it does raise some concerns. The fact that you have that connection with Jason Hart. You have that connection with his father. You've been linked to Kentucky for what feels like forever, up until like the start of his recruitment here just half a year or so ago, with Mark Pope, Jason Hart and company kind of making that pursuit. But that would be a question mark to raise. Like, okay, if Jason Hart wasn't able to get it done with somebody that he is very close with, what exactly is Kentucky going to do with some of these other high-profile prospects? Something that I have seen that some people have talked about, I don't necessarily know how serious it is the fact that Mark Pope and the staff and just the program as a whole right now underneath Pope, they're not looking for 32, 33, 34 minute per game guys that want to hog the ball, which I'm not necessarily saying Crowe would be. I'm just saying that he's a very ball dominant player and you get a lot of offense out of him, I think. But at the same time, Pope is looking for a more team oriented approach to the game, at least it seems like, to whatever he wants to run offensively. And I think you saw that best in the way that he managed his rotations, especially whenever things were getting tight down the stretch. You were still seeing Kentucky trying to throw guys out there, saying, next man up, let's put Trent Noah, Travis Perry, Colin Chandler out there, and let's let them run. We're not going to do what Cal did, which is essentially play 7 guys, because you only have 7 guys on the roster, and then just hope you don't get into foul trouble or more injuries don't occur. You're going to see the minutes and the amount of shots distributed, I wouldn't say very evenly, but fairly evenly. Maybe that's not the most appealing to some of these top prospects. That's, I think, one of the reasons why Caleb Wilson ended up not coming to Kentucky, other than money, which I think that you pair those two things together. You start looking at a place like Missouri, Louisville, Duke, etc. Those places are going, North Carolina, those places are going to offer you score first ability as a freshman who wants to get to the NBA, while also providing you the funds if they want to make you their crown jewel of the recruiting class. I'm not saying Kentucky doesn't have money. I'm not saying Kentucky can't attract star talent. I'm just saying I've seen a lot of people discussing whether or not that's a factor, and I will be curious to see if that ends up being an issue with Jason Crowe Jr. here as we wind down with his recruitment, as Missouri takes the lead and Kentucky apparently falls behind the pack. I'm assuming it has to do with money. Like I said, it's interesting that Hart has this connection, and if we don't get it done, that would be kind of a question mark. But also at the same time, maybe Missouri sees this kid as their go-to guy in 2 seasons, and they just want to throw as much money at him as possible. Okay, fine. Kentucky will utilize their resources elsewhere. If they do end up getting him, I would like him. I saw some people questioning defensively what he's able to bring to the table, athletically what he is as a shooting guard. I'll say this: I wouldn't say he's the most athletic, like blow you away with his jumping and dunking ability. I would say that he's got some explosion to him. And some people have questioned his efficiency shooting the ball as well. If he was not an efficient shooter, he would not be a 5-star player. Unfortunately, during the Nike EYBL, he led the EYBL in scoring, but he was not an efficient shooter. He shot 41.6% from the floor and just 25.6% from 3. And I'm not going to lie, did not really bring a ton of value outside of that. He had more turnovers than assists. He didn't really bring anything to the table in terms of steals or rebounds. It was shooting. It was scoring. And shooting the ball at a 25.6% clip from beyond the arc is bad. So that does bring some questions, I think, into the fold here. But I also will note he shot 40% from 3 as a sophomore at Inglewood. from three. The kid can shoot. I mean, he was shooting like 90% from the charity stripe still with EYBL. So, like, fine. There are some questions here, both, I think, from a player individual standpoint as like what he can bring to the team. And then also financially, do you want to make the type of commitment that maybe a Missouri wants to? All of these things factor into I would take him because I think Mark Pope can make the best out of any high floor type guard, make him a more efficient player, I should say. But if we don't get him, I think that there are other places that you can go in this recruiting class and say, okay, I'm excited about that guy because he either brings the same thing or maybe he has a little bit more upside in terms of athleticism or shooting or defense or what have you. Great player. Not arguing against that. But if you're looking at the positive side of this, I think there are some things you can take away to saying, well, he's not the most perfect player in the world. And then also Kentucky can go elsewhere and possibly get another player that could work, which after seeing the way that Mark Pope put together the first roster with the players that he had and what they were able to do win total-wise and the teams that they were able to beat, I don't necessarily think we have to go get every single top 10 player on the board. Maybe you can get one, maybe you can get two, surround the team or surround him with some other high-profile either freshmen or athletes or transfers. Kind of do what UConn has done. Make it a blend, man. That's how they won their 2 titles. And I'm going to continue to scream that that's how freaking Florida did it. I'm going to continue to scream that on the mountaintop until it finally happens. So that's my thought on Jason Crowe Jr. Is he coming to Kentucky? Is he not? I'm not sure. Missouri's the leader. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We'll continue to move along here. Kentucky getting a big-time 4-star quarterback commitment from Matt Ponatoski, I believe, or Ponatoski. Man, look at me go with the pronunciations today. I had it down pat before the show started, but apparently I can't seem to talk here. On3 is very high on this kid. I am too. We'll tell you about him here in just a second. Before we do that, though, tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands, and that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible, makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And man, whenever I secured tickets to go see Kentucky play Gonzaga later this year, I mean, it was just an incredible get out of the app, find the cheapest prices available across the market, got a great seat right there, right in the middle of the arena for an excellent price. The views look incredible. I'm sure it's going to be even better in person. That's been the case with Game Time every single time that I've gotten a ticket. And you can take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time by downloading the Game Time app, creating an account, and using code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDON COLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, continuing along here on the Monday/Sunday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys checking out the show. If you've not subscribed, we are trying to get to 20,000 subscribers before the start of the season, the college basketball season, I should say. I think we can get there. If you guys have not subscribed already, I would love it if you did so. Talked about college basketball recruiting in the first segment. Let's talk about college football recruiting with the Kentucky Wildcats as they land a 4-star quarterback, Matt Ponatoski, excuse me, I should say. Man, I had this down before we started the show. Ponatoski is a 4-star quarterback. On3 is insanely high on this kid. 4-star prospect, number 100 nationally, number 9 quarterback in the cycle, number 5 player out of the state of Ohio. 24/7 Sports has him as a 3-star. ESPN and Rivals have him as a 4. ESPN has him rated 16th nationally, Rivals 22nd, and 24/7 Sports 29th. Not quite sure why 24/7 is so far behind the rest of the major recruiting outlets in terms of what they think about this kid. But at 6'2", 190 pounds, the comp that 24/7 Sports has given this kid is Devin Leary. And some of you may hear that and cringe, but I need for you to understand kind of who this kid is as a player and also understand what Devin Leary was before he got to Kentucky and before he got injured. First of all, let's start with some of the stats. He had a 58-3 touchdown to interception ratio during his last season in high school. As a junior, he was Mr. Ohio Football, Gatorade Player of the Year, and Max Prep's Ohio Player of the Year. I want to reiterate this real quick. 58 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Doesn't really matter what level of high school ball you're playing at varsity. That's really, really good. On top of this, to become Mr. Ohio Football and Gatorade Player of the Year. Pretty sweet. Led his team to a 14-2 record in an appearance in the Ohio Division I Football Championship. Completed 282 of 406 passes. That's almost 70% completion percentage for almost 3,500 yards. Again, 58 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. As a sophomore, posted a 10-4 record as a starter, completed 230 of 376 passes, 61% for 3,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So a big jump from sophomore to junior year as a signal caller. And if you go and watch this kid's tape, which, I mean, it's been posted all over social media, all over Twitter, all over YouTube, if you want to go find this kid and how he performed junior year, made some excellent, and I mean excellent throws into tight windows across the board. This kid is one of the more accurate quarterbacks that I've ever had the pleasure of watching, at least in terms of his highlight tape. It's not a wobbly ball. It's not an inaccurate one. This kid is putting it on the money, and he's doing it in a lot of different ways. You know the baseball background. He's going to play baseball at Kentucky, played shortstop in high school, and he makes so many impressive throws off balance or on the move. I think mostly because of the pressure that he was getting in high school. Doesn't seem like his O-line was the best. They usually aren't in high school, no duh. And he was still hitting guys inside the numbers, outside the numbers, really, really, really good on the move. Again, I think a lot of it makes sense because of what you see in this kid as a baseball prospect, being able to make all these different kinds of off-platform throws with different arm angles. He's a great passer out of the pocket. At different times, it feels like in his tape, he might be bailing from things a little too early, might be a little skittish. But, I mean, when he stands in and even on the move, inside, outside the pocket, the kid is delivering ropes in the intermediate and short game. When it comes to the long shots downfield, again, he's putting it on the money. It might not be the strongest arm in the world right now when he's taking longer shots, but he's extremely accurate. And 58 touchdowns, again, to 3 interceptions, really does speak for itself. I think he's got great footwork for a rising junior. The kid looks polished whenever he stands in the pocket. This kid is mobile, but he's not a runner. He's really, really good dancing around after plays and making things happen. I wouldn't say he's Johnny Manziel-esque, but I think the kid is really good at finding receivers whenever the play kind of continues / breaks down. He is an excellent, excellent quarterback with some great touch on his ball. Again, Ohio, Mr. Football, Gatorade Player of the Year. This kid's tape's really fun. And when you look at it, I mean, to me, honestly, before I saw the 24/7 Sports comp, I'm like, this looks like a Power 4 starter. This looks like an SEC caliber quarterback, just the way that he was putting it on the money with insane touch and some zip there in the intermediate game. And then I saw the comp was Devin Leary, and it makes so much sense. I mean, both these guys, I think a little undersized. I think both of them pretty average arm strength, it looks like right now, but really good footwork and incredibly accurate players. At least that's what Leary was when he was healthy at NC State, making really impressive throws across the field, and he can do it again outside the hashes, inside in the middle of the field. Can put the ball in a lot of different spots if you ask him to on different kinds of routes. It is an impressive arm that this kid has. Again, not the strongest in the world. And that's not me saying he's weak. I'm just saying it's not like that's what's leading him here. He's just a really accurate passer and somebody that I think could thrive at Kentucky. And he talked in an interview about like how important the people here are, about how incredible they've been, and about how good the relationships are with both the football and baseball program. They've been loving on him for 2 years, apparently, shown a love for a long time to him and his family, and it's the right fit for him. He also talks about how good he thinks the system is. He said, quote, that they said it's been basic for the last few years and they need a guide around the system. And Coach Bush walked me through what it would look like and said the situation to come, or what it would look like in the situation to come in and play quarterback there. I think I can go in there and not turn the program around. They've been doing good things, but put it back on the map. Okay. All right. Trust that. During his Elite 11 finalist performance, scouts were talking about him as arguably the most accurate passer throughout the event. Smooth operator, made drill work look easy, well-placed, well-timed catchable passes, carried that across multiple days, impressive pro day showings while earning the highest score from the Elite 11 staff. He's got a great rhythm and a natural feel. I mean, the kid is just buttery smooth, man, when it comes to making things happen inside, outside the pocket. And according to Elite 11, he's really, really good with drill work right now. Arguably one of the biggest pickups for next year's class, if you're looking at Kentucky possibly continuing to make things happen here with Mark Stoops leading the program. This season's going to be incredibly, and I mean incredibly tough for Stoops and co. to get something going here and win enough games to make a bowl, win enough games for him to stick around. It feels like, at least that's what it feels like according to the fan base. It may be a completely different feeling inside the athletic department, but if he does, I think you're looking at a very, very interesting quarterback battle between Cutter Boley and Matt Ponatoski, Ponatoski here in 2026. The other thing I wanted to note here about Matt is that Kentucky's recruiting class, with his addition, is now up to number 44 nationally and number 12 in the SEC. Kentucky has, since I made that comment, and since everybody started pointing out just how down bad Kentucky football recruiting was after Vince Marrow left, they have made some serious moves, and they have landed a ton of not incredibly high-profile recruits. I mean, obviously, they flipped Denarius Gray from Auburn, who is a good receiver. Obviously, they bring in Ponatoski here out of Cincinnati. All of these guys are mid 4-star level. It's not like they're blowing you off the map with like some 5-star offensive tackle commitment, but these are guys that I think you can build on, especially if you're able to continue to get guys out of the portal that can help bolster your roster, specifically in the trenches. I'm not mad at it. Keep building on it, man. I would like to see it happen. I'm not rooting for Stoops to get fired, although there are a lot of people doing that. I just think the challenge that he has ahead of himself is very, very, very difficult to find a bowl out of. If he makes it happen, awesome. I mean, he's done it in the past, but as of right now, with the way that things were trending a few weeks ago, wasn't looking great. And to be honest with you, it's still not phenomenal, but at least we're starting to trend in the right direction. Maybe we'll hear some more things out of fall camp that are positive. We'll continue to monitor it. Obviously, SEC Media Day is coming up here soon. Maybe we get some sound bites and some interesting commentary from the head coach. But yeah, 4-star commitment, big-time addition to the program. And Matt Ponatoski, let me know what you think in the comments below. Gunslinger, feels like pocket passer, excellent touch, excellent feel for the game. Great rhythm throwing the football. All right, to wrap up the show, I want to talk to you guys about Jasper Johnson playing with Team USA. Just want to remind you guys, if you've not subscribed, would love it, love it, love it if you did so. Trying to get to 20K here before the start of the season. And again, if you've got any questions, drop it in the comments. Want to know what you have to say, and I'll try and do my best to answer it here on the show. All right. Jasper Johnson, I think, played decent for Team USA. He played well considering the run that he got. Did not have the opportunity to get a ton of minutes or, frankly, a ton of shots up relative to the high-profile performers on this team, most notably Tyron Stokes and Mikel Brown Jr. But in 15 minutes per game, he was averaging 8 points, 1.3 rebounds, 1.6 assists per contest, 0.7 steals, and then he got 1 block there in the middle of the run. And to be honest with you, it wasn't necessarily like the most shocking thing that he was behind a lot of these guys in terms of minutes and in terms of just getting the ball. And when you look at his play style, it also kind of makes sense, which we'll get into here in a second. Because of what his role was, I was very pleased with one thing in particular, and that was the three-point shooting. As a spot-up guard that needs to put on more muscle and is learning here, is continuing to grow and continuing to develop, and is in a very important stage of his development, I thought he played his role well. I think he had a decent performance. Could he have shot better inside the arc? Could he have shot better at the rim? Yes. Could there have been better shot selection at various points? Yes, I think you could say that about all of Team USA. If you watch some of their final games, I mean, some guys were just out there running and chucking, it felt like. But in spot-up situations and catch-and-shoot situations, Jasper was very, very good from three. Shot 40.7%, almost 41%, 11 of 27. Only had one game where he had a bad shooting performance, and that was in game 2 where he went 0 of 2 and 1 of 4 from the floor overall. But outside of that, to be honest with you, he continued to give Team USA some solid outside shooting. 3 of 5, 2 of 5, 2 of 3, 3 of 7 there towards the end of the run, which, by the way, Team USA won gold. All of these guys, also AJ DeBansta, of course, one of the lead guys on this team, I should note. But all these guys winning gold, Jasper included. But the three-point shooting, I think, is really what stood out, is that's kind of what he brings to the table. That's what he said in recent interviews that he brings to the table. And in year 1 at Kentucky, I don't really think that there's going to be time to add more to the table other than the ability to catch and shoot and knock down shots at a 36 to 45% rate, depending on kind of how things go. And then also maybe distribute the ball a little bit. But it's very clear to me that while Jasper, he does, I think, display the need to take time to develop. I think that's clear. The upside is absolutely there. There's a reason that this kid was a top 25 5-star prospect. There's a reason that he was rated so highly. There's a reason that he came to Kentucky. He's going to be very, very good. But it's clear, like I mentioned, there is one thing that has to happen. He has to be stronger in order to survive SEC play. In order to be a valuable, efficient portion of the roster, which, depending on injuries, he could end up being very important to Kentucky. He has to be a more physical player. And I'm not asking him to be Mo Diabate. I'm not asking him to be Denzel Aberdeen. He just has to be stronger. That's what Rob Dillingham was told in the offseason whenever he got here to Kentucky. And you know what he did? He got much, much stronger during the offseason. In just 6 months, built up some muscle so that he could take guys downhill and finish through contact. Jasper's going to have to do the same. Thankfully, he's probably not going to be asked to carry a Rob Dillingham-esque load off of the bench. He's going to have the opportunity to, in spots, develop, show off the shooting, show off the flashy handle, show off the offensive creation. He's going to be able to do that. And he's not going to be asked to go out there and win games for UK, I don't think. And then in year 2, my expectation is that he takes off. He is a multi-year player here, I think, at UK. I don't think that he is going to, based on what draft boards are saying, I think he would come back and he would be a lottery pick after year 2 because of his scoring ability. If you give him that year and a half to develop and to get stronger and to learn the college game and to become acclimated to a faster, more physical brand of basketball, this kid will thrive. And he showcased it in flashes when given some minutes there with Team USA. I thought he played well. I thought he played decent for the run that he got. If he had got more minutes, obviously he'd been averaging more points, I think. I don't think he would have fallen off a cliff. I think he would have continued it. We'll see what happens at UK. Hopefully he'll be able to get in practice and acclimate to the environment very well. I'm rooting for him. I think he's going to be great in spots this year. And I'm not saying like he's not going to get minutes. Kid's going to get minutes. No duh. I'm just saying he's probably going to play a similar role to what he played on Team USA in terms of minutes, in terms of amount of shots. He was averaging, less than 6 shots a game? Yeah, I think he's probably going to be around that, if not a little bit less, somewhere around there. I think that's pretty fair. And then in year 2, you expect him to go from 6, 7, 8-ish points to take off and be one of the leaders on this team. Super excited to see what Jasper Johnson's able to get done. Great stuff there in Switzerland. Congrats on the gold, by the way. Big time accomplishment. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at @LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below or hit me on the socials. I'll see you all tomorrow for another episode. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.